Yeah, I'm getting up at 2 a.m. now. It's going to get to a point where I'm just getting up 15 minutes after I fall asleep.
That sounds like hell. Like a torture.
Thanks, Shawn. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm sympathizing.
It looks like you're in Ella already, so. Are you sleeping in that room with red lights?
Yeah. Can Jamie put little horns on Eric?
Yeah, he doesn't have enough to do. You want him to do special effects, too.
This is the Inkpulp podcast.
You're turning Indian somehow. Did it get recorded?
Yes.
I'm turning Indian somehow.
That was a great start.
No, I don't think it did.
It recorded the tail end of whatever it is that you said.
Yeah, the tail end probably, yeah.
I think it.
How are you guys?
What's up?
Good to see you.
I'm fucking sleepy, man.
Are you still having trouble sleeping, Eric?
Yeah, I'm getting up at 2 a.m. now. I'm just, it's going to get to a point where I'm just getting up 15 minutes after I fall asleep.
Oof. That sounds like hell. It's like a torture.
Thanks, Shawn. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm sympathizing.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to lean
It
in.
looks like you're in Ella already, so. Are you sleeping in that room with red lights? That's probably
why I
problem.
can't sleep.
Yeah.
Can Jamie put little horns on Eric? Let's put little horns on Eric, Jamie.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough to do. You want him to do special effects, too.
Or maybe it's the fact
he
that
loves
you're getting asleep with the sound of people getting slaughtered. Maybe that's the thing that wakes you up sometimes.
The noise of souls being tortured for eternity.
It's a lot. How are you guys? What's going on?
Mattteo, what's going on?
I'm very good because I'm finally back on my book. So
Nice.
that's great.
I was going to ask.
I got rid of all the
covers are off the
this
table?
morning. Yeah,
Okay.
I finished the last cover this morning that needed some final touch, and I'm back on a book, and that's awesome. And
Nice.
of course, last night I got a new offer. This time not for covers, but for a big thing, like a big animation thing. And
doing design work for it?
I don't know. I don't know what the role is gonna be. Like
Just say no, man. Just say no.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do because it's 8 to 12 weeks commitment, and I can't take that off of I mean, they told me that they're flexible with the schedule so they'll, if I want, they can allow me to work part-time, which I don't know how it works.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Case.
Don't do
But
it.
yeah,
That's how they get you.
I can't divide myself between the book.
They always
and
say that
another
at the
job.
beginning. They say that at the beginning. Then when it gets started, then the people who are giving them the money are like, "Wait, we need to speed this up," and then it all falls on you.
Yeah.
Can you say do you know the name of the movie? Can you say it? Or who it's for?
No, don't say the movie.
No, I can't. But it's a big thing. Yeah, it's a big thing. But I don't know what my role would be. So it's just
It's janitor.
I should have a meeting with the people over there, and then they will tell me what the job would be. So
Gotcha.
I might just have the meeting just to talk to them and see what they
I mean,
need.
yeah, get
But-
information. That's I think. You
But
can get
at the same time, I'm
information.
scared because I'm not good with confrontation, especially face to face. Because normally those meetings are not, it's actually it's a video call, but you see them. So it's harder for me to say, okay, now that I know the job, sorry guys, but I can't. Via email,
just
way,
do this.
way easier.
Yeah. Just tell them at the end of the call, just be like, look, let me look at my schedule. Let me think this over. That's all you got to do, face to face. And then you can email them like the bitch you are and say, I'm not going to do it.
Hold on. I think I think he knows what to say. He just doesn't know how to say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Like
that ruins my joke if I think that way.
I'm tired, man. I didn't know there was a joke opportunity in there.
You think you're tired of me? I think that's what the problem is, Eric.
That's a part of it. That's a small. Actually, that's a very major component of me being tired.
Eric has Shawn fatigue.
I'm done, man. Another thing is that I'm reading 2 books. Like right now I'm reading one, and as soon as I finish this one, I'm gonna read the second one. I mean, I kind of rereading them because we're gonna be having Craig Thompson soon. So I'm rereading Blankets, and then I'm reading like Habibi, which I never read like the complete thing.
I'm reading that too.
So just to get in the mood.
When is that happening? When is Craig
next 2 weeks? It's
2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. It is. I can tell you the exact date. Oh wait, no, it's 3 weeks. It's April 10th.
Lies.
Next week is just us, and then the week after that we have Klaus, and then we have Craig. The week after that.
Did we give context on why it was so important for us to have Craig on the show? Did we talk about that?
I don't know. I don't think so, but go ahead.
No, you're the one that introduced the idea. You lead the conversation, Fred.
Well, a few things.
It's a little early to be drinking, don't you think? It's like, Maddie, are you drinking right now? Are we drinking?
Nope.
Beer? Okay.
Clear beer that tastes like carbonated water. It's a new
clear
drink.
Beer. Mm-hmm.
Clear beer.
Bitch beer.
Well, so Craig Thompson, I think, is, aside from everything, he's arguably one of the most innovative comic book artists of the past 20, 30 years. And
well celebrated, well regarded. Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah. And also have become friendly with him as of recent, and found out he does listen to the podcast and enjoys it. And he's expressed interest in coming on. So I thought it'd be great to have him on.
Yeah.
Aside from that, he went through a major, I don't know what you call these things. They tried to cancel him. Did they cancel him? I don't know. The lunatics of the internet went after him for having done nothing but write works of fiction. He's a very sensitive artist. He's very aware of what he's writing and very respectful of whatever subject matter he tackles. And there was not a single problem with anything he's ever put in his books, but they had decided he was the devil because he wrote a work of so it's 2 things. Two of his books they had a problem with. They went after him first for Habibi, for a few reasons. One being it's a story about a Middle Eastern woman and her son. And in the book she's raped, which, it wasn't glamorizing, glorifying rape, and women get raped and things happen. It's a horrible thing. And he doesn't present it in any wonderful light, but it happens. It's a work of fiction. And in part of the story, it's a very male dominated world she's living in, and it makes sense. So they went after him for that and said this is unacceptable
because there was rape in the book. Okay,
that's it.
Without knowing the story, I'm wondering if that scene, that event, was formative to the characters. Sort of like
it was.
Okay.
It was. Okay. It was very important to the story. Yes, it was. Absolutely. He didn't just throw it in for the hell of it. It served a real narrative purpose. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they attacked him for not being Arab and writing a book that took place in the Arab world, which is more lunacy. And then the book is currently...
Wait, did he misrepresent a person being like, you know what I mean? Like, did he Did he put clown
Yeah.
shoes on everybody and make them look
No.
poor?
Like I said, he treated everything with the utmost respect. He did his research. He's a true writer. He immerses himself in the world, studies the world, gets to know the world, and just tries to use that as a backdrop for the story to unfold. There's no like, and the book itself. I mean, there's a lot of verses from the Quran in the book, and they're all very respectfully handled, and they're beautifully, like, he studied the art of like making Qurans, and you can see in the book, like whenever there's a story from the Quran that he uses in the book, he hand draws all the patterns that you'd see on the cover of a Quran.
Fucking incredible. Yeah.
Fucking
Beautiful.
amazing work. Time, like so much time and love was put into these pages. So yeah, there's no reason that should have canceled him. And as if that wasn't enough, he was, at the time that this started happening, he was working on his new book, the Ginseng Chronicles, Ginseng Roots. Yeah. And part of the story is about a Chinese family that farms tea leaves. And once again, he immersed himself in the culture. He went to China. He studied. He learned all about this. And he literally lived in China for a little while. And then they just went after him for writing a book, not being Chinese, about Chinese people. And it's just like, that's their only argument. He again handled it with there was no animosity, no nothing. It just, this is just the story. And they went at him really hard. His publisher dropped him.
His publisher dropped him because people were complaining?
Yeah. And they told
his publisher?
him. This was Drawn and Quarterly.
Drawn and Quarterly, who has a history of like making really sort of like on the edge of the envelope.
Yeah.
Evocative is a great word, right? Books. And because of this, they dropped him?
Yeah, because they were part of that woke mob in a sense. They got wrapped into the narrative of it. And they told him to stop. They told him that he had to stop making the ginseng roots that he was drawing.
They actively in the middle. He was in the middle of it, near the end. I don't know, but regardless, they told him to stop drawing his book.
Yeah, they said, "Look, your legacy is at risk now. You are going to be erased from the history of comic book making. That's where your career is going now. So you need to stop doing this book, because this book will destroy your career, and move on." And when Craig said no, that's when they said, "All right, well, we're not going to publish it." And so he ultimately.
Do you think it's
found
gonna
another
be
publisher.
honest? Do you think it's gonna be open to talk about these specific things on the podcast?
I've asked him. The thing, he has nothing to hide, nothing to be ashamed of. But what these people did to him was, I don't know Craig super well, but I've come to know him a little bit. He's a very like kind and sensitive artist, and they really crushed his spirit to the point where he was about to walk away from doing this ever again. And he's just now starting to build himself back up. I mean, the way he said it to me was, they took 10 years off my life and 3 to 5 books out of me.
This was happening for 10 years. They went after him.
No. He's saying the stress he's went through and the trauma he went through from living this has taken 10 years off his life. Now, he still receives email all the time. Like when I was talking to him, me, Jim, and Craig have like a once a month like Zoom call where we just hang out and catch up with each other. As we were talking, this is just 2 weeks ago, he got an email from someone that said, "I just was at the library and I saw Habibi in there and I wanted to burn the entire library down." Like this is the sort of stuff he's dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So they have crushed. Yeah, go ahead.
To Matteo's point, super early, these people are trying to make their mental sickness his mental sickness,
Yeah, and what's sad is they have really damaged a great cartoonist and a kind human being. They have really done a significant amount of damage to him. It's bad and it sucks. So to answer your question, Mattteo, is he open to talk about this? It's very difficult for him to talk about. It's not that he wants to hide anything
for him. Yeah, that's because I'm projecting, like I'm trying to put myself like 3 weeks from now. And this is a thing that, it's on one hand, it's horrible. And on the other hand, it's fascinating for me because I would love to expand and talk about it, But
yeah, I mean, I would too.
On the other hand, is this, like, I don't want, I don't want him. Eventually, he's probably still gonna be hurting about this thing. So, on the other hand, I don't want to keep talking about something that's still, causes him pain. So it's gonna be hard.
He'll see how he. Yeah, he said he'll see how he feels on the day of. We will follow his lead. The thing is this: in Craig's world of comic books, like there is, I guess the lines are grayer now, but there was a real clear separation, almost two different industries between the more independent comics world and the mainstream comics world. So the circles that Craig ran in all turned against him. And his perspective, from his perspective, the entire industry had erased him from being an amazing cartoonist, and he was just persona non grata. Since he's become more friendly with like him and Jim spent a lot of time in Portland together, and he's talking to other artists, and since he's met guys like me, he's starting to see again that no, he hasn't been erased. So while I would like to talk about all this stuff with him if he's open to it, I am more concerned with celebrating what he has done for this medium and talking about all the work he's done, how he's done it, what he was doing, because I think he's unique in how he creates a comic book. And I think it's really sad to think that he had, I mean, to put it this way, Blankets, the Blankets royalties up until this cancellation happened around COVID was giving him a salary every year, like a decent salary every year, just those royalty checks. So that allowed him to make a living while he produced these other books like Habibi and then Ginseng Roots now. So it went from like a 6-figure amount to, in 1 year, $9,000. So his entire income was wiped away from this. And so it's been pretty traumatizing for him. So I want us as an industry to hold this man and his work up in regard and talk about how wonderfully, in a critical sense, how wonderful it is.
Well, I think we can bring like all of our viewership, which is like 17 people now. So he's going to be having 17
I just hired 2 new bots, so we're at 19. 19.
All the forces that we move in the industry,
Yeah. But, well, to all our listeners, all 19 of you, since you know that in 3 weeks we'll have a Craig Thompson episode, go buy Habibi and read it. That's what I would ask of you guys.
Well, for them, it's going to be in 2 months. Well, no, they'll listen to this one. Okay, so it's going to be
when
in
this
3
comes
weeks
out,
for
right?
You.
Yeah. It's a beautiful book.
I would like to hear, and by the way, I'm not disparaging anything that you're saying, Shawn. I'm not discounting it or like dismissing it. I would like to hear and I know there's a lot of psychopaths out there, and they are obviously part of the example.
You being one of those.
I'd like to understand where. I'm one of them. Yeah, I'm the one that I'm actually on the day the day that Shawn got, the day that Craig got that letter. That was me. That was me hitting send.
He did say email was, the whole screen went red when he opened it.
Yeah. I was like, I'm at the library right now, book of matches in hand, and I am throwing it through the windows as we speak.
Nazi Filipino 50.6 at gmail.com.
Also,
right?
Portland,
at
Portland wiped his books off the shelf. Like, his books were all taken off the shelves in Portland. Like, it was bad. I felt bad for the guy.
Jeez.
I'm
What
just
were you gonna
curious
say?
to have a better understanding of like where the, I even if to the point where I disagree, right? I'd want to hear the other side and be like, what did you guys see that was so, hedonistic? What did you guys see that was so poor that you felt like the best thing to do was just to wipe him from history? Right. Like, I'd always want to understand that perspective and then go like, okay, I disagree with that, but okay, but at least I heard you guys out, as opposed to like being 100% dismissive of it right off the bat.
Right.
Generally, I don't care for if it's just a mob saying, because here's how the mob works. Right? And anybody who has a level head on there, if we want to talk reality, this is how it typically works. There are three, let's give them a benefit of a doubt. There's like really like a dozen loud voices. They're like, I disagree with whatever this person is doing, whatever their conduct is. And you're like, okay. And by the way, this proves out to be more true than not true. There's a couple of people, maybe a dozen people who are really, really vocal about whatever it is that they disagree with. All right, and you hear them out and you go like, okay, I can kind of see that. I can kind of agree with it. Or I see your perspective, even if I don't agree with it. But everything that radiates out from those 12 people, often they're uninformed of why they don't like somebody. Does that make sense? And by the way, it goes the other way too, which is like, I like this guy, and you're like, I'm on his side or whatever, and you're like, why? What is it about that person that you agree with? And you're like, well, I agree with him in principle. And then you go dig a little bit deeper and you go like, I don't think, actually, there's very little that I agree with this guy. I agree with I agree with the principle. I agree with the generality, but the specificity I'm not into. So I often wonder why people immediately have a knee-jerk reaction. Here's why they immediately jump on this bandwagon without investigating for themselves what the heck that is. Is it just easy? Is it just like laziness? I don't want to believe it's laziness. Like, is it just laziness to make you go, you hate him? Oh, I hate him too.
I just think it's mob mentality. I don't even think laziness comes in the equation. I think
no, but I mean, no, you can't say that.
Mentality.
Like, that's so easy to say, just like, oh, it's mob mentality, but there's got to be something in there to be like, is it so much harder to just go like, okay, I get it. Like, it's the mob mentality thing, but where's that come from? Why is it that you can't do? And I'm not saying you, Shawn, but like, why is it that you can't do the very simple task of like finding out for yourself, as opposed to just taking it, part and parcel as to be like, somebody said it and therefore, it's got to be true. And it's easier for me to just jump in there,
Right. It seems to me like people are so wired just because of social media for outrage. It brings it out in people. So the minute they see like a friend who's outraged, they want to join in the outrage. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's. Maybe it's. I think laziness. I don't know.
You want to sympathize with your friend, right? But that's different. You know what I mean? I think when if something is happening to Matty, and it's something in the wrong, right? It's bringing him down or whatever it is. Obviously, I'm going to sympathize with him because I'm his friend, right? I'll go discover later that it might not be that bad, but in that moment, I'll go sympathize with him. But that's different because that's like one. If this is Kevin Bacon, that's like one step away, right? I'm sitting next to him. We're talking. We're friends.
Right.
But when it's 15 people away, you know what I mean? When it's like 20 steps from the Kevin Bacon,
right.
I don't get it. Right. Go figure out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I'm not arguing. I'm trying to think about it myself, but I don't know. Maybe it's because on the internet, like with Kevin Bacon, you might not know Kevin Bacon and you're 18 steps away from Kevin Bacon, but because you see Kevin Bacon on Twitter, you feel like you're one step removed from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
It brings maybe a familiarity with the person.
I think it's a mix of what you guys are talking about. I think from on one end, it's that there's a lot of people that are hurt. Yeah. And they're fucked up for whatever reason. Yeah. And they use social media and in general the internet as an outlet, as a quick, easy outlet for it.
I agree.
And on the other hand, now people are not able to focus and spend time on stuff. They constantly have to go to one thing to the other.
Yeah.
So in order to have a constructive potential criticism, for example, towards Craig's work, you should first, have the clue, like an article about his work, maybe being, I don't know, whatever, being wrong for some reason. Then you have to read the whole article. Then what you should do as a second step, you should buy stuff, or anyway, find a way to find somewhere his stuff and read his books, which are like big books, then spend time on it, and then spend time formulating your opinion on the work.
Okay, listen.
And then do it, and and if you do that, the whole aggression, the whole power of your complaints is entirely gone. There's a really interesting joke about, let me finish.
Yeah. Go ahead. Here's what I'm trying to say. Right? Everything that you're saying right now, that's why I'm asking, is it laziness? Because everything that you're asking for, everything that you're talking about, requires you to invest in this emotion, this knee-jerk emotion that you're talking about, right? Like, that's why I'm like, is that just laziness?
It's not lazy. It's that it doesn't matter. What matters is the outlet of aggression. Once I free myself of this fucking shit that I haven't made, so once my problem becomes your problem, then I'm done. I can go on with my day or whatever. I'll find something else. Like, the goal is the complaint in order for me to feel just slightly better than I was before, So
I think
it doesn't really matter. That's why they're not willing to spend actual time reading that stuff before formulating an opinion, because what matters, it's fucking complain about something. Because today, I don't know whatever happened to my life today, I need to grab at least part of my shit and throw it, against somebody else today.
I think Matteo's right, and I think it's a mix of that with also overwhelming information and media just inundating everyone constantly, that everyone is constantly in a state of overwhelm. If you're on your phone a lot, if you're, it's always TV, phone, like snippets of things, like everything's quick and always inundating people. So I think asking people, like, people don't, I don't know, do people read as much as they used to? Like sit down and open a book and read? I mean, even if it's on an iPad, are they like taking in things at a slower pace anymore? Or is it just everything's coming at them so fast, so quick that it's not just laziness, it's just like everyone's rushing through the day to get to a point where they can just sit down and have a drink and go to bed or something. I don't know.
There's also a part, I mean, and this may be in line with what you're talking about. People just can't sit with their own fucking thoughts anymore and just really sort
That's
of
true.
like...
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's the internet, because now the internet allows you to immediately, like, if today I feel something about you, Eric, I'll just go to your Instagram page and go to the DM page, and I just DM you whatever the fuck I want to tell you. Like, think about
Sure.
30 years ago. Like, you're in the States, I'm in Italy. If for some fucking reason I read a book by you that I didn't like, what I had to do is to try and find somehow your home address. Just think about a person in Italy without internet, just trying to find some way to contact you. And then grab a pen, grab a fucking piece of paper, and then start writing whatever the fuck I think about you, and then send it and spend money to send it to you, you know? Just think about all this. And that goes back to the thing that I was about to say earlier before you interrupted, which is there's a really nice joke about Jim Jeffries. He was talking about this specific routine was about guns, but it was talking about, when things were great, when we had muskets. You know why? Because muskets give you a lot of time to think. and then he starts,
Yeah, I remember that joke.
starts the sketch by, two people fighting, and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck you up, buddy. Let me grab my musket." And then you had to pour the fucking powder in it, and then by the time the musket's ready, you're like, you're not a bad guy, That connects with what you were saying
That's
earlier.
good.
It's the fact that
that's a good
people
analogy.
are not used to think and sit with their own thoughts just for a fucking second. If you just waited for a second, you'll realize that 99.9% of the things that your instincts say immediately, just say it, they don't fucking matter,
Mm-hmm. And I think that this says something that Matteo said this this is several months ago now, like the internet and generally the ability to press a button and you can connect to like think of an important person that in no other time in
even sorry to interrupt, but even if it's not an important person, you have immediate context. So whatever, like if tomorrow I post something about something that you don't like, you have a direct connection to me, so that just by digiting whatever you want to do with it on your computer, it gets immediately to me, whoever I am.
But that's my point.
Even if I'm not famous.
No, that's my point. No, that's my point, which is to say that, in no other, like some of these people have an inflated sense of whoever they are because they have easy access to these people who typically they would never get access to. It gives them this, like, I don't know, man. I have this. This is just for me. I always think like, fuck. Unless I do something. There are people who are curing diseases, sending rockets into space, owning multi-gazillion dollar. Like, what am I doing when I'm talking to you idiots? I don't fucking matter. There's very few people who are genuinely, historically, in the grander scheme of things, actually matter, and some people just believe that they do. And the internet facilitates that level of self-importance. It's weird to me.
It is weird. The phone is raising kids to believe that everything should be exactly how they want it at all times, because they open their phone and they only see what they want to see. They can buy whatever they want immediately right from there, and it'll be delivered to the house. And you can be whoever you want on Instagram. You can be someone else on Twitter. You can choose a different name. You can have a different picture. And it's just training people to think that they're the center of everything, and anything that comes into their orbit that they disagree with is a problem. And there's no ability to accept ideas outside of their own, and there's no ability to self-soothe. And I think that's another thing, is people, the minute they need soothing, they go to the internet to say something so people come in and make them feel better.
Right. It's that confirmation bias, right? Like somebody comes in, I feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable too? Cool. I feel better.
Yeah, not only that, I think it's also like the speed and the velocity at which all this operation happened. They don't allow you to think for a second, because most of the time when you're pissed at somebody, at something, you're just projecting. 90%, 95, probably 99% of the time, you're just projecting. But if you sit on it for a second, you have the time to realize that and understand that you're not mad at this person. You're mad at yourself for whatever the fuck you did, or somebody, or whatever the fuck somebody did to you in the past. And now you're unleashing on this, external element, while you're not realizing immediately that the problem is within yourself. And therefore, like it's kind of, the internet is kind of training people not to be emotionally mature, I think, and to deal with those emotions. So the equation becomes now, this thing makes me feel weird, therefore this thing is wrong, which is really childish way of thinking. You grow up, and after a certain point, you're like, it's not wrong, it's just not my thing, because whatever happens, in my life, I don't do well with this kind of things, with this kind of subject, with this kind of images, or whatever the fuck it is. But now, especially now, like, and I understand it on somehow, because I was young, and I know how easy for a young person it is to divide between good and bad. So whenever something made me feel bad, instinctually I would go with, okay, therefore this is wrong. So I understand it. The problem is that now young people have an outlet to, express that. And it's, it's really hard to I don't know, maybe when they grow older, they realize, or this is how things are gonna
become. Hold on. Here's the reason why I disagree with that. And I don't think people are learning, and there are not enough adults in the room. So going back to Craig Thompson's situation, right? So there's a bunch of people who saw what Craig was doing and thought that's wrong, right? A bunch of people who don't have enough emotional IQ to understand. Like, I think unless this guy is saying something awful about, like, when Frank Miller was writing some of the stuff that he was doing, he was lashing out at whatever. I think the story goes, and I haven't done enough research to take this with a grain of salt. When he was lashing out at the attacks on 9/11, he wrote, what was it? Something
Holy Terror.
So that was his sort of like, apparently an alcoholic, trip into saying something about that instance. That comes from an angry, angry, chemically, unbalanced place. But whatever it is, like, I don't think Craig was coming from that place, right? He was
no, not at all.
So there is this weird blanket thing where they started saying, hey, if you're not of that culture, of that race, you shouldn't write about that culture, about that race, right?
Right.
You should have an opinion about that. You shouldn't be the person that represents that, whatever it is, whatever angle they decide to take. That's one version. That's the internet, right? That's them saying, I'm angry. I'm going to press this button. I'm not going to sit here and think about it. Whatever it is. I don't have the emotional IQ to deal with the fact that this person isn't actually doing long-term harm. It's not coming from a malicious place. It's not coming from an unhinged place. That's one component. That's why I was so like bearing down on what Shawn said when they said, is it Fantagraphics, Shawn?
No, Drawn and Quarterly.
Drawn and Quarterly, excuse me. Pardon me, Fantagraphics, you're not part of the conversation. When Drawn and Quarterly, who are technically the adults in the room now, said, actually, no, we can't publish you. They're supposed to be the people that takes a look at it from a broader perspective with a level head. And again, to your point, Matty, they're supposed to be the one that's not acting like children anymore and say, like, what is he? What's happening right now?
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. Like, the only reason why I'm not, taking parts in it is because before that, I would love to hear from Craig. So, and it's not that I don't believe Shawn. It just feels weird to me.
No,
I don't believe Shawn. I don't fucking believe Shawn. Yeah.
let me just say,
fountain of misinformation.
Shawn. Again, I believe you, but in order for me to be, to feel good about the conversation and expressing an opinion, I need to hear it, from the direct interest.
I agree with you 100%. All I wanted to say was, I don't take my word for it. The information I have, some from Craig, some from what Craig told Jim, but it's not from Craig directly. So this is coming from me. So I agree with you. Like, yes, it should come from Craig.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, in case this really happened, like, I agree with you, Eric. And all the story, let's call it asshole, is the publisher. Because people are going to be people, and the choice is really the publishers. And by the way, a publisher who gained a lot of money for a lot of years by publishing his stuff. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh, no, you're by yourself, buddy. Like, they never published that stuff before, You've been publishing it for at least 10 years or whatever the fuck, how many years they published Blankets or Habibi. And now everybody's noticing that something might be wrong with it. And they're like, nope, we never did anything wrong, guys. There you go. Craig is out. And we're good.
I will say
we're the good one. No, you're assholes.
It's the publisher, but it's also the community. It's not just the publisher. I mean, the entire community went at him. And that's...
Listen, publishers are like publishing, is just, I'm not speaking on their behalf. I understand why they decided to step away from them because of the fact that it's still a business. They want to make sure that their business is impacted, minimally by whatever it is that they believe Craig is doing wrong, but it doesn't make him any less assholes. You're still an asshole.
Yeah,
I
that's what I'm
understand
saying.
why you're
It's
doing
still
it
a
as a
matter of
business.
choices.
From
They
what-
chose to do that,
Right.
Yeah.
And it does, from what the way it was described to me, again, I'm not Craig, but the way it was described to me from Craig was they took a moral stance, not a business stance. And I think that's different.
Yeah, whatever. And Matteo's point
It
makes me
sucks.
even more angry. Hey, you were okay when we were raking in money,
Right.
on blankets. The moment it got a little bit tough, you guys don't have the backbone to say, yo, I think we're going to be able to weather this out with you. Please. How can you trust a publisher at that point? Because at the drop of
You can't.
at the drop of a hat, you're willing to back away from a guy who has in his history that you've worked with him, he's never shown the kind of like animosity, evil intention, whatever it may be. But this one got a little bit of heat, and you're like, we got to back away from you, dude. How do you trust somebody like that anymore?
Right.
Fuck 'em.
I think the professional community has to defend him and his legacy. That's the main thing. I do. His legacy needs defense right now.
So here's the question that I wanted to ask you guys. So thinking about what Shawn said about his all of a sudden really decreased yearly income, right? Because the books were selling less. What do you think was the factor for that? And maybe, again, it's one of those things where I would love to ask Craig, but he's not here. So
yeah, I mean, that's a question for Craig, but I would guess
so
part
do
of it
you
was,
think the publisher has something to do with the fact that the book wasn't selling as well as it used to?
Yeah,
because
I think I think it's
advertising it
they
or
stopped
whatever.
publishing it. I mean, they stopped publishing it. Is the problem. I mean, they stopped publishing his books. That's part of the problem. The other problem is bookstores got rid of it, returned a bunch of books. So that's another side of it. And people stopped buying it. And people like, people like us who are think like we do. I guess I didn't really know it was as severe as it was. I'd heard like rumblings of it, but it wasn't until I spoke to Jim, like, this is a year ago, Jim started reconnecting with Craig and hanging out a lot. And he was like, dude, man, Craig is not doing well. He's like, I had no idea how bad it was. And that's when I started hearing about it. But I mean, at the time it happened, it would have been nice to be able to like support it, promote the books, try to, if the community was out there trying to like raise awareness about these books and help sales, it might have helped. But I don't know.
Can I be honest with you? Like, I'm super ignorant, but I want to follow up on what Eric said earlier. I think that if the publisher kept publishing it like always, and the stores kept, buying copies, nothing would have happened. I
agree.
Like,
I agree.
physically, nothing would have happened.
I agree.
It's the usual thing, like the fucking loud hassles. Every time there's always
that's
gonna
exactly
be
right.
people following
And the other
them
thing
for
is-
some fucked up reason.
Craig's work is celebrated around the world. So I don't know if this is like more of an American thing, this cancellation stuff, but I can't see that the work's being affected in European sales where he was really, really popular. But if the book isn't available.
Ultimately, it's impacting him financially. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if your information is accurate, it went from like really well selling to like $19, whatever the figure was. It doesn't matter how celebrated it is. It's impacting his livelihood. And
no, but to Matteo's point, if the publisher wouldn't have dropped him, I don't like, even if sales dipped in the States, I don't even think they would have been affected globally.
Yeah, it sickens me to think that, there's a level of cowardness that's going on that, again, I want to read it. Matteo's reading it right now. Like, there may be something in there that makes me go like, yo, that's offensive as heck. But I don't, if I had to put money into it, I don't think it's come into it. The mob came after him for that reason, like, oh, that's really off-putting because
I'm reading it now. And I mean, I don't feel like there's anything that was presented with malice
Yeah.
or anything near offensive in it. But
then again, I'd want to hear from somebody who has read it, who's level-headed enough to say, actually, here's where I think this thing went off the rails, and I take exception to it. But I think that person would present it in that space of like, I don't agree with that, but at the end of the day, he's an author, he's a whatever, let him, you know what I mean? Is he calling for violence towards a certain group of people?
Right. And like, I might not agree with, like you said, Holy Terror. I might not agree, but I would always defend Frank's right to make it and it be out there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a line in which I go like, that's in poor taste, right? Like I go like, that's, I don't know, not unless it's
but
something
poor
really
taste
significant.
doesn't mean that I want you to die poor and and everybody, in your family died by a really bad disease or whatever, not being able to support your family anymore. That's
I want to burn down an entire library of books.
Yeah, there's a lot of mentally conditioned people who think that's an okay thing to say, and ultimately, I think like, how many adults were there in your life to like inform on your your emotional conduct, And it goes back to what Mattteo was saying. Everything it makes it so much easier now to just reach out to somebody and say, "I want you to die," And I'm like, okay,
to the original question, I would. We could, if Craig's open to talking about it and we spend an entire episode talking about it, in part of me feels like we're doing him a disservice. It would be great to just use the time we have together to celebrate his work and talk about his craft and his creation of all of it. Yeah. And when he gets comfortable and wants to talk about it, we have him back, I think is probably the best way to handle it. Because I think what needs to be focused on right now is his library of work and his craftsmanship.
Yeah.
More over anything.
Yeah. I remember when blankets first came out, people couldn't shut up about it. Just shut up about blankets, Dude,
that book rocked the world. It opened up the graphic novel to the book market. Like that book opened up graphic novels in the book market completely.
Yeah. Now he's the freaking bad guy,
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it. I'm trying to think of a timeline in which the guy who wrote and drew blankets is doing something so detrimental that it's like, we got to take this guy off the shelves. So weird to me.
He's such a sensitive creator. Like to go at him, like Frank Miller is not a sensitive creator. Like but Craig is. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's all. That's like 3 or 4 steps after the fact, independent of how they take feedback and gestate and whatever it is. That's like whatever. That's to the person. I hate it for it. It's the principle that somebody can just show up, and right now I'm targeting the publisher in specific, where you're like, you were okay with this guy for years upon years. Scraping whatever percentage off you can from his back.
I wonder if they could have survived this long without blankets.
Who knows?
Like floating them, because that book was such a big hit for so long. So Craig now has a new publisher. It's a book publisher, not a comic publisher.
Okay,
and they're on board, but they have a new position. These book publishers called sensitivity reader.
Yeah.
So this position is someone has to read the material, and find out what's going to offend someone, and then have the author change it. So
that's not true, guys. Hold on.
One of the things he had to change.
Hold on. That's not true.
I felt the need of barfing for a second.
Yeah, no, that's misrepresentative of what the sensitivity reader does, right?
Okay,
at least the process of like after the first part of what you said is true, which is they go through the material. They find things that potentially could be problematic. And depending on the situation, the author and the publisher can move forward with the suggestion.
Okay. Yes.
Right. Or say, we're going to keep it in there. They are making you aware of potential risk within the context of the book. Okay. Nothing says you have to change it. Right.
Okay. Well, then I don't know that. I'm just going what Craig had told me, because everything they came at him, he had to change, or he changed.
Yeah.
So one of the things was in one of the chapters in Ginseng Roots, they're talking about this oolong, this special oolong tea. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters refers to it as this mysterious leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Shawn. Sorry to interrupt, but can we talk about this thing? Like, are we authorized?
With Craig?
Yeah.
No, you speaking out of context.
No,
like,
you.
know
Are
what I mean?
we
Like,
authorized
right now
of talking, or maybe this is private?
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
shit.
I won't say it. I won't say it.
Okay, cut everything, Jamie. So now we're at mini.
No, I didn't even say it.
episode.
I didn't even say it. I didn't even say it. I did. I
No,
didn't
now
finish
I'm
the
questioning the premise of the entire episode. You're like introducing stuff from your private conversations, and are we even
Yeah, well,
allowed
actually,
to talk
Mattteo,
about that?
what's going to happen? I don't want to get Craig in any shit. That's
Yeah,
what
that's it.
I'm concerned with.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. I was talking exclusively from Craig's perspective. Maybe it taught
He
you
didn't
this
say to me
thing.
like keep this. He didn't say to me like this is between us. But yeah, it's a good point. So we should stop talking about it.
Yeah, 45 fucking minutes in, we're like, yeah, we should
Shawn
be careful about how
spills
we
the
represent.
beans, Crystal.
Oh, it's all on me now. See, you're
on
like
your
the
own, buddy.
publisher.
I didn't do
You
anything
just turned
wrong.
on me.
I didn't do
You
anything
just
wrong.
turned on
Eric
me.
didn't do anything wrong. It's on you, baby.
You're just like John and Quarterly.
Yeah.
You rode the coattails of the podcast until it reached the line, and then you're like, "Fuck this."
Hey, listen,
Yeah, you
can
see Eric and I slowly sliding away, and then it's just you, buddy, alone.
Can you guys have time today? About an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. Watch this movie called American Fiction. Have you guys watched it?
American fiction.
That sounds familiar.
It's a fucking brilliant movie, and it's in line to the spirit of what we're talking about. So the premise of it is, there is a black writer, right? Literally, like, you know.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
I
So
don't like this
what
movie already. Sorry.
Yeah, the moment he said, I think one of two things triggered Mattteo, right? One of two things triggered Mattteo. It's either the black writer, which I think is the one that made him go like, "Oh shit, fuck this movie," or the fact that it's about a writer, and he's like, "I don't know anything about writing," you know. Like, it just scared. Both concepts scared the shit out of him. But anyway,
The
it's a
reason
black
being,
writer.
because I'm now a writer as well. So every time I hear the word writer, it feels competition to me. You know, it wasn't for the ethnicity. All right.
Yeah, cancel mob. It's not because he's a black guy, but the premise behind it is he's a black writer. He's unsuccessful because he's refusing to lean into what would be the popular for his type of writing, right? Which is, if he wrote about his whatever, if he leaned more into the victimhood, if he leaned more into what's popular in as far as like getting eyeballs on him, he refuses to do it. And as a matter of fact, he reacts so unfavorably to it. He does it. He writes a book out of spite, right? He writes it exactly. He does a cartoonish version of what he thinks, the current state of black writing would be.
Yeah.
It fucking takes off.
Yeah,
it becomes really super popular, and he has to negotiate his emotional space of like, fuck, this thing is awful. He knows it's a parody, but people are reacting really favorably to it, and he can't stand it, right? And it speaks to where we're coming from in spirit, not necessarily point for point. I just had, my wife and I watched it last night. I'd watched it previously. I was talking to Shawn about it a couple of months ago. And it's really freaking brilliant. And the director for this thing just won the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. And he said something that was interesting to me because it has layers, right? In his acceptance speech, the director's name is Cord Jeffries. And when they asked him about his history with this script when he was shopping it around town, a lot of different movie companies were turning him down. And it was because they were saying things like, I don't want to misquote him. And I'm looking at he says, I've been talking a lot about how many people passed on this movie. And I worry that sometimes that sounds vindictive. And he said, I don't want to be vindictive. I'm not a vindictive person anymore. And I work very hard not to be vindictive. It's more of a plea to acknowledge and recognize that there are so many people out there who want the opportunity that I was given. Now, he's talking more about how people passed on this movie. And I'm trying to understand if they passed on this movie, if he's saying a comment like that because he's a black writer, or because the thing that he's writing is very unpopular.
Right.
Right. Which is turning the mirror around on the people who are doing these kinds of things, who are leaning into, and it's coming from a very fake place, by the way. The way he the characters in this movie, again, this is Hollywoodized, but the way people are reacting to this writer who suddenly becomes that much more legitimate because he did time in prison, because he's a murderer, because he's a wanted felon, whatever it may be. They're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. We want to hear your story. When he's not that at all. It's a cartoon,
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out, is he saying that because he's reflecting that onto these assholes who only want to hear from what they quote unquote realize as like real, you know what I mean? Or what they believe to be a representation of like Black America. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's an interesting sort of layered cake to be like, I think people are uncomfortable with this movie being made because it shines a light on their hypocrisy. It shines a light on their two-facedness, that they only want to accept these kinds of stories if they have sort of like an angle and by which they can broadcast or rebroadcast, victim signal in a way,
Right.
It's interesting. I'd be interested to see your guys' perspective once you guys watch it.
Yeah,
I found it to be freaking hilarious,
So it's American fiction. Is that recent?
It is. If it just won the Oscars,
Where did you watch it?
Within this year. I think I might have bought it on Apple TV, on Apple. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd heard about it, and not enough people were talking about it. And I'm like, I wonder why people are so averse to broadcasting or signal boosting this movie. And once I watched it, I was like, I know why.
Yeah.
Because if enough people agree that this is happening,
watch it. You just sold it to me. I'm definitely gonna watch it.
If enough people agree that this is actually happening, like, yeah, I get it.
For a second, it reminded me of an old movie called, I just checked for the title. That's why I was kind of distracted for a second. Noise is Off.
No.
I don't know if you're familiar with that movie. It's about basically a theater play. And basically they are a bunch of actors. And I don't remember the premise, but basically they start playing this play in theaters, and everything that could go wrong in a theater play goes wrong, but it gets so wrong that somehow it becomes hilarious. So people start loving it. So it starts to become a really popular theater act. And every time they make so many mistakes, and the whole thing is so fucked up that every time you have a different show, but because it's all mistakes, and it becomes one of the best acts in Hollywood, basically. Yeah. And it's really, really good.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I have it on my screen to remind me to go watch it. In part, this reminds me of that movie called The Producers. And it's by,
I was just gonna say that Mel Brooks.
Reminds me of this movie. Yeah, this Mel Brooks movie that got remade. The first version of The Producers wasn't very successful. He remade it again after the music.
Much later.
Much later. Until once it got turned into a musical, he took the original cast of the musical and turned it into a feature film. It has Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick in it, and turned that into a feature film, and that was really, really well received. But the premise is similar, you know what I mean? Which is to say, let's do something that is so awful we can have it as a tax write-off, right? The only way we can make money off of this thing is if it tanks and it becomes really, really super successful.
But say what that thing is, because it's pretty funny.
They make a play about Hitler, about because they know they're like, in that era, it's going to really do terrible, but it's so well received. Right. But they're like, what the hell? Why is this doing so well? Anyway.
Yeah. In Noise is Off, it's kind of different because they were hoping to do something good, but the play was awful and the actors were awful. So everything went wrong, but the public reaction was amazing. So They were trying to do something good. It turned out to be something else, but people loved it more than the original concept, which was shit, basically.
Yeah. The mechanism of what you're saying is similar in American fiction, right? But I think the underlying message is the part that I'm like, I can't believe they let this guy make this movie, because of the fact that he is effectively saying, look at you fucking assholes. This is the shit that you're into.
Right.
Right. This bullshit that you guys are like hyping up, wanting to pay a gazillion dollars for, and it's all fake. It's all manufactured. It's pretty interesting. The other one that I tried to watch where I'm like, I'm not in the right headspace for this is this most recent one that won Emma Stone. I think she won Best Actress.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Poor Creatures.
Poor Things. Poor Things.
Oh, Poor Things. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought like, I'm not in the right headspace for this freaking movie to really sit here for another.
It's really good. I haven't seen
an hour and 20 minutes.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has William Dafoe in it. I'm freaking on board.
Yeah.
The other, and by the way, we're at time, so let me say this. The part that made me laugh about this movie, where I said to him like, I'm not in this movie anymore, is I love, oh fuck, who is the person that everybody parodies in the perfect way of like, shit, and his brain is slipping my mind because I'm old and I haven't slept. It's not Willem Dafoe. It's of his character and of his ilk. And and people do a really great impression of him. And he was in like
Walken.
Christopher Walken.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
I went to go watch Dune, the second Dune movie, right? Mm-hmm. And Walken is playing the Emperor. Right? In the what do you call it? In the story, he's the Emperor. And for the life of me, I could not fucking get over it. It was just like, it's just Christopher Walken playing the Emperor. It's almost a parody. I really felt like in that, that could have been like, I'm trying to think of an actor that just makes you go like, all right, that's obviously the Emperor type. I feel like in this day and age, like the Corridor crew, the guys who are on YouTube who like, who do the special effects or whatever, they lassoed Christopher Walken and put him as a joke inside this movie. Because as the moment Christopher Walken showed up, I was like, it's just a weird parody of somebody playing the fucking Emperor to me. Anyway, that's not to say anything about Christopher Walken's acting chops. I know he has it. It's just in my brain that is broken. I thought like, yeah.
All right, so Mattteo, now that I have the control button, you can give us the longest bye-bye we've ever had.
All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Eric, are you ready?
I gotta go. I hate it so much.
Still hear him. Yes.
All right, bye people. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Inkpulp Podcast.
Hey guys, my new sketchbook, Dumb Shark, is finally out.
That's great, Fratello. Congrats. Eric, what do you think?
Wow, Mattteo. This book has really changed how I think about art. The style, the details, the inking techniques, not to mention the colors. Everything on this book is off the chart. You are so far ahead of any other artist, especially me. I know I always say I don't like your Mr. Freeze book, but that's actually a lie. I was just jealous of your incredible talent because I love everything you do. And sadly, I know deep in my heart that I'll never be at your extraordinary level. You truly are the best artist on planet Earth. This book is a game changer, man. I think everyone out there should go and order Matteo's new art book, Dumb Shark, before it sells out.
Gee willikers, Eric. That was an incredible endorsement. You really made me want to buy it. How can I get my hands on it?
You can find it on www.essentialsequential.com, or if you're in Europe, you can order it on www.pulps.fr.
Wow, Eric. I didn't know you were such a big fan of mine. Thank you. I really don't need to add anything else. You said it all.
What an asshole.
Wait, what?